for them so far this season. In 3 Challenge Cup ties, they've scored 31 tries and conceded just 3. This lineup lacks Nathan McAvoy and Bernard Dwyer, both injured, but includes 7 players with Wembley experience. Steve McNamara returns at loose forward, but the key pairing is at half-back. Henry and Robbie are a fairly appalling prospect to play against. Leeds had injury doubts over both centres, Blackmore and Brad Godden, and inspirational second-row Adrian Morley. As you can see, all have come through. Terry Newton is preferred at hooker to Lee Jackson. In fact, this, as a whole, is the team that beat Wigan with only 12 men in the 4th round when prop forward Barry McDermott was sent off. So this is the very biggest of domestic rugby league occasions, between 2 big city sides separated by a short section of the M62 and by a whole wedge of sporting history. More than 10,000 supporters of each team inside the McAlpine Stadium, plus just a few neutrals. But they have plenty about which to blow their trumpets, the supporters of the Bradford Bulls and the Leeds Rhinos. For players like Mike Forshaw, a date with destiny. Forshaw has had such a successful career down the years, but hasn't topped it off with Wembley appearances. And Robbie Paul, the scorer of a hat-trick in perhaps the greatest ever final in 1996. Robbie Paul, the captain of Bradford, and Iestyn Harris in charge of Leeds on the field of play. The 2 captains being drawn together by the match officials, ready to toss up. It's a sunny day, as you can see. There's also quite a stiff breeze, and one side will have to think about having the sun in their eyes as they receive the ball. Russell Smith, the referee, and the touch judges, Steve Taylor and Jimmy Molyneux. Russell Smith from Castleford, who was also in charge of that semi-final here between these teams 2 years ago. Well, Bradford's passage to the last 4, or the last 3 as it is now, has been comfortable enough. Leeds have really been extended by Wigan and St Helens. So how significant is that? And with Leeds having had injury worries all week, how fit are the players who've been struggling? Questions for a man who played in 7 Challenge Cup semi-finals and won the lot, Joe Lydon.
Well, one thing we're guaranteed is a great game. I mean, so often we are in the world of sports, you look at games and you build them up, and sometimes you're let down. I don't think that'll be the case today. Both sides raring to go in the semi-final. Leeds coming back from injuries and a defeat against Wigan, but I think it's the pundits are all joining me on the fence for this one. It's so close to call.
That fence is about to collapse under the weight of you all, Joe. Bradford kicking off through McNamara, and the first catch is effected by Richie Blackmore. Bradford unbeaten in league and cup this season. It's played 5-1-5. Leeds won their opening 4 games and then went down 26-12 at home to Wigan in the Super League 9 days ago. And we expect, Joe, a very high-intensity start.
Particularly in the forwards, the early exchanges will be crucial. Remember that Leeds have had a few injuries and they're now coming back to full strength for this game. But the early exchanges will be intense in the forwards.
Well, the ball was ripped away.
Jimmy, no problem with you, you want the fault. Mozzie, come here. No, yeah, Moz, I've got your penalty. Don't go poking towards Jimmy Lowes, Moz.
As referee. You can hear, we can now eavesdrop on the referee, which is, well, quite illuminating, Joe.
Well, exactly. Russell Smith telling Adrian Morley there, Moz, the nickname, just to calm down a little bit. He'd already been given the penalty. There was no need to carry it on.
Interesting as well to hear the way in which match officials talk to the players in rugby league. It indicates a certain empathy between players and officials, which perhaps isn't always the case in other sports. Here's Anthony Farrell, one of so many Leeds players who've yet to experience a Wembley Challenge Cup final, and of course this is their last chance for the time being. With Wembley about to be rebuilt, Murrayfield is pencilled in as the venue for next year. And Russell Smith has spotted the infringement, and we're going to have a scrum down.
Well, the first mistake from Adrian Morley. Had a chat with the referee before, but nothing to say on that occasion. Just lost control of the ball, couldn't play it cleanly. And the first scrum.
Bobby Paul with the ball from the base of the scrum, and here's the fullback Stuart Spruce. Spruce, who's one of those 7 Bradford Bulls who played in a Challenge Cup final, both for Bradford and 6 years ago for Widnes. James Lowe's the hooker to David Boyle, second row man. Scored one of the tries that saw Warrington in the quarter-final in fairly emphatic style. Now Brian McDermott. Worth bearing in mind that both sides have a McDermott. Brian in the front row for Bradford and Barry at prop forward for the Leeds Rhinos. And it's Bradford trying to spread the ball, and Rivette nearly managed to intercept, but he knocked the ball forward.
And that was a risky pass too from the Bradford Bulls. They'd use the forwards to make good yardage, and then a long cut-out pass. And if Leroy Rivette could have collected, there was an open try line waiting.
Well, there aren't many neutrals inside the ground today, but here's one of them down on the touchline. Richard Duckenfield.
Yes, down here at pitch level in the shelter of the stadium, it is remarkably warm, and both benches have taken the precaution of laying in some large stocks of water. I'm looking at a 10-gallon drum on the Leeds bench. You can expect a lot of interchange in this game, I expect.
I don't think we need warm weather to make this a pretty hot occasion. Adrian Morley, and tempers spilling over inside the opening 3.5 minutes.
Easton, go away from me, please.
Russell Smith with plenty to do.
And this is where his experience will come in. He has to calm the situation down. We knew there were going to be fireworks early on. Both packs trying to get on top.
There's a swinging arm, Moz. I know the player was falling slightly, but with swinging, if you cop him round the head, which you did, you're going to suffer. So I know he was falling slightly, that's why I'm not overreacting, but with swinging, if you cop the head, and what we've got to do, Adrian, I've had a word with you over there, because as soon as I blow the penalty, you're going straight at the players. What you've got to do, Eddie, you've got to control yourself and not go back at him. You could start a fight. Get control, Ed, come on.
And there is that experience, just telling him to calm down. There didn't seem to be much wrong with it, because, to be truthful, Mike Forshaw did slip as Adrian Morley made contact. But the referee was more concerned with what happened afterwards and people muscling up to each other.
There's the culprit, Adrian Morley, one of those who's been struggling with injury. He's missed the last 3 games with a dead leg, but a vital component in this Leeds team. So with Steve McNamara back in the side, he has assumed the kicking duties from Henry Paul. Just drifted wide of the upright.
He just pulled it a little bit to his left. Possibly just snatched it a little bit of nerves early on. Not got in the routine yet.
It's a terrific setting for a sports ground. With a wooded hillside on one side, it's almost in a natural valley with the panoramic skyline of Huddersfield beyond that stand on the far side.
Well, those pitches don't tell you that Bradford are facing a strong breeze this afternoon, and also facing into the sun.
Stuart Fielden, the Bradford player, tackled.
This time it's Bradford made the mistake of the play the ball. Young Stuart Fielden, the 21-year-old, just couldn't play it. Looked for the penalty but didn't get it.
It's a fine line, isn't it, between not playing the ball correctly and interference. Difficult call for the referee. Sheridan. And spinning up towards the area 40 metres away from the Bradford line. This is Mark Glanville. Australian loose forward. Sheridan. Oh, Barry McDermott dropped it, and it clocked obligingly into the arms of Stuart Spruce. And Spruce has gained a few extra metres. Bradford full of vim and vigour, as you expect on an occasion such as this, and Scott Naylor taking play up towards the midway point of the pitch. McNamara.
Still waiting for some pattern really to emerge in this game. Both teams just testing each other out, but here's a man that can create something.
And a pass from Robbie Paul to David Boyle, who's away and scores! Delight unconfined amidst the hordes of Bradford supporters. And away from David Boyle's celebrations, a fight broke out in the wake of the try-scoring run.
Well, we waited for a little bit of pattern to emerge. James Lowes picks up, drops the inside ball into Robbie Paul, and there on his shoulder, on his left-hand side, David Boyle's got enough pace, the ex-Canberra Raiders player from Australia, to cross for the first try in this match. I think there'll be lots more.
So, as he did against Warrington in the quarter-final, David Boyle, the hard-running second row, the Australian, signed from Canberra Raiders, goes in for an important try.
His second try for the club for Bradford.
Hang on, Faz, wait here, Steve.
Well, the yellow card is out for a sin binning.
Faz, have a minute, there were two of
And
on the
Steve
floor.
McNamara
No, I've asked to check with the
has been
touch
picked out.
to see if it affected the try. Come on, Faz, come on, settle down, you do it same as him, 10 minutes.
10 minutes as well for Anthony Farrell, so we're reduced for the time being to 12 aside. Memories, echoes of the semi-final here 2 years ago, when we had 3 sin bins and a sending off in a fairly torrid encounter. There are very few shrinking violets out there. So Farrell and McNamara both spending 10 minutes in the cooler.
And with McNamara off to the sin bin, the kicking duties refer back to Henry Paul.
And he's missed that as well.
That's a little inside pass from James Lowes, the hooker. We all know about the skills of Robbie Paul, but in support, David Boyle, outpacing Richie Blackmore, the Leeds Rhinos centre.
Only his 4th match for the club, and his 2nd try, both of them in the Challenge Cup. Harris with the short kickoff, and Cummins was right there, absolutely in the face of the Bradford player. Here's Henry Paul. Robbie Paul. And Paul's escaped again. And he had supported his right shoulder, but didn't feel able to offload the
He had
ball.
Mike Forshaw there screaming for the ball. They get the penalty, but I think they could have made more yardage if that pass had have gone to Mike Forshaw in support. This is the penalty, just holding down a little bit too long. It was Terry Newton, the Leeds Rhino hooker, just trying to slow the Bradford progress down. And that was a strange kick there from Henry Paul, just sliced off the boot.
It's lovely sliced. It's fielded.
Wasn't the best kick, but it also shows how strong this wind is.
Is this panning out more or less as you expected, the early skirmishes,
I think you're just waiting for people to set down and get into a rhythm and a routine. We've seen one clean break, really, from Bradford and a try. I think both teams will look to set to their pattern pretty quickly.
Leeds are absolutely seething about that try. Anthony Farrell, who's back on the bench, says that he was tripped and he was taken out, and that he could have actually stopped that. He could have actually stopped that break. Anthony Farrell annoyed. Leeds absolutely seething about it.
Stuart Fielden held 23 metres out. Now here's Forshaw. Had such an excellent season so far. Fielden again, this time inside the 20. Now Boyle, the try scorer. Robbie Paul to Henry Paul. By 2 years, the elder of the two brothers. Stuart Spruce, he's got 2 to his left, including Danny Peacock. And this is Peacock in possession.
think Danny Peacock would have liked a cleaner, faster ball, better service.
Spruce with the kick through, gathered close to his own line by Iestyn Harris. Now Leroy Rivette. I think rugged is an adjective that could be applied to what we've seen so far, Joe.
And all the pressure really being applied by the Bradford Bulls. They've certainly dominated territorially.
Mark Glanville. Well, Glanville, it's a last chance really. He's going to call it quits at the end of this season. And would dearly love to top off his career with a Wembley final. Terry Newton.
Those are stats to prove that Bradford have been in control. A massive 68% time in the opposition's half. They really have controlled the opening exchanges.
Ryan McDermott rocked back by the force of the tackle. Cleary wasn't too keen to let him up. This is Tavita Vaikona. Scored 4 tries in the previous round against Warrington. James Lowes to Robbie Paul. Run around with Henry Paul. Half a gap opened up. It nearly became a full gap, and still he's going. Eventually dragged down by Darryl Powell. And a penalty awarded to Bradford. What, a metre from the Leeds line. Trying to burrow over direct. James Lowes now trying to go from acting halfback, but they've turned him onto his back and they've held him up right on the line. Russell Smith having to peer in between the players, and he was held on his back.
Well, if the Leeds Rhinos coach Graham Murray would have told his players anything, it would have been to watch James Lowes yards from the line. He's such a good player, such powers, well, short from the line. He can sprint away, get low and use his power, and he's scored many a try from that position.
Robbie Paul, such a danger, such a scamperer, and he's scampered almost up to the line. Leeds trying to regather their forces right on their own try line. Henry Paul trying to find a little bit of width and space. Here's Forshaw, just about held up.
Looking for support as well, Mike Forshaw, trying to get the pass away.
Now Fielden, powerful teenager. Suggestion that something was a little high there, but referee was content. James Lowes to Brian McDermott, back with Lowes. Lowes surrounded by a reception committee of 3, who all seem to be twice the size of him. Spruce, looking for that little gap, that little chink in the defensive armoury of the Leeds Rhinos. A matter of inches out from the line, and this is the last tackle. Lowes with the chip through, Lowes with the touchdown against his old club, and the danger that you cited, Joe, has come to pass.
Not in the way I anticipated, though. Instead of picking up and using his power, a little bit of thinking and skill involved. Doesn't pick the ball up, just kicks it through. It's totally legal, and once it crosses the line, has the presence of mind to chase and score. Excellent work from James Lowes for Bradford's second try.
Well, the Bradford Bulls coach Matthew Elliott is supremely confident of his side's abilities. He says this is the best squad of players he's ever assembled.
Clever work from James Lowes. Doesn't pick the ball up or pass it, just kicks it through, dabs it through, showing skills of some of his Leeds United players that he follows so well, and scores a try. Darryl Powell on the floor, could do nothing about it. Tries to block him, can't do. Perfectly weighted kick as well, and there's the try.
So the rabid soccer fan uses his soccer skills to score Bradford Bulls' second try. And Henry Paul, who like McNamara has missed his first attempt, tries to convert. Only just, but it's there.
The perfect start for Bradford Bulls, pleasing their fans.
And James Lowes, who spent so long as a Leeds player, providing the 4 points to which 2 more have been added. James Lowes with his 4th try in the Challenge Cup this season, and he averages a try every other game for Bradford, whereas in his Leeds days it was a try every 5 games. Shows just what a potent weapon he's become. Ball falling off the kicking tee.
And Bradford really are finding gaps. Leeds a man down.
Taken by Spruce. The two in the sin bin, due to join us again shortly, and then we'll be back to 13 aside.
Well, Russell Smith has penalised Leeds for the flop, as he titled it, just going in late, and again trying to slow down. But you see Newton there, the Leeds player, trying to pull his fellow player off the Bradford Bulls, Stuart Fielding. Penalties conceded, 5 already by Leeds. And I think it was Justin Harris at the top of the programme mentioned that penalties can kill you in this competition.
Oh, the ball has been lost, and it's a penalty to Bradford. Leeds penalised again for the 6th time in the opening 17 minutes of the game.
Again, untidy, scrappy around the play of the ball, just a little bit of interference. Darryl Powell pleads innocence, but the referee was right on the spot, Russell Smith. And he explains to Justin Harris, the Leeds Rhinos captain, exactly what's expected. He wants it tidying up.
And Steve McNamara and Anthony Farrell now back on.
Anthony Farrell's gone back on for Leeds out of the sin bin with instructions. Not surprising, really. His instructions to the players will be discipline. We've got to control the ball better than we have been doing. Anthony Farrell will tell that to his Leeds teammates.
Lowe's to McNamara. Lowe's tackled around the ankles by Ryan Sheridan. Forshaw, David Boyle, scorer of the first try, the first of 2 now for Bradford. And Leeds yet to register. And Bradford with Withers threatening the Leeds Rhinos line again. Lowe's to Brian McDermott. Oh, he bounced into his namesake Barry McDermott. Lowe's distributing to Robbie Paul. Huge long pass. Picked up by Stuart Spruce, the kick through. Justin Harris back behind his own try line to gather. It's a dangerous game to play that, but Leroy Rivette and the referee has pulled back play for the dropout beneath the post.
Again, more pressure on the Leeds Rhinos.
You can't be offside, Justin.
They really are struggling to get out of their own half. They'll now have the chance with a drop out, but it's again going to give possession back to the Bradford Bulls. Dangerous play in your in-goal area.
And Bradford are going to get the ball straight back. This is Fielden. Barnstorming prop forward. Adrian Morley was first to get there. 2 of his colleagues, including Brad Godden, followed in. And Fielden rather gingerly picks himself up and shakes himself down. Scott Naylor. Fielden obviously a little the worse for wear after that 3-man tackle. Lowe's to Boyle. So much more power in the legs of the Bradford Bulls at this stage, it seems. More ideas from them as well. Very much on top at this juncture. Quarter of the way through this second Silk Cup Challenge Cup semi-final. London Broncos awaiting the winners. And here's Forshaw, and here's Vicona! And Vicona is going to be pulled back. It was a forward pass.
Well, they worked the overlap well, but just a little hint of a forward pass there. The last pass before reaching Vicona, and I think it was the right decision as well.
Half the stadium were up off their seats as Vicona crossed the line, but it hasn't counted because of the forward pass. Here's Rivette, offside against Bradford.
Relief at last for Leeds.
They just need a platform on which to build a bridgehead, don't they?
Well, they've been scrambling around in defence. They've not really had time to construct any kind of platform. I've been again impressed with the Bradford Bulls forwards, though, particularly David Boyle, taking the game forward to the Leeds Rhinos and causing them problems constantly.
Barry McDermott with the offload to Terry Newton. Newton now bringing Ryan Sheridan into play in centre field. Justin Harris lacking a little in support, but Godden has handed off Scott Naylor, and got this sidling through. He needs support from Francis Cummins, which has arrived, but Cummins trying to jig his way towards the Bradford line. Leeds need to capitalise. They need the next score in this game. Sheridan to Richie Blackmore. It went through his gaping arms and into touch.
That's better from Leeds. I know the mistake came at the end of it, but Francis Cummins so close, going against the grain of the defence, trying to find a way through. Richie Blackmore couldn't get the pass out. But at least for the Leeds Rhinos' point of view, they are now in the Bradford half of the field, and that's been a rare occurrence so far in this game.
Paul Anderson being sent on by Bradford. This is half of the course, 22.5 minutes into the game, to change round one of the props, Fielden making way. And Robbie Paul with the ball from the scrum to Henry Paul. Such an elusive character, and confident that Naylor was there for the flung pass. Now Anderson appeals for a forward pass there. Answered in the affirmative by referee Russell Smith.
And confirmed even more by Jim Molyneux, his touch judge. Just give the little signal. Russell Smith asked the question, and he said yes, definitely. Only a touch, but it's forward enough to get the attraction.
So it's another scrum down. Close to halfway.
He's going off.
Darryl Powell. And now Yestin Harris. Half a sidestep, but not enough to get him clear. Richie Blackmore, loser at Wembley in 1992 with Castleford, and one of only two Leeds players to have reached a Challenge Cup final. The other, for the record, is the left winger Francis Cummins. Anthony Farrell. Farrell, who spent some time playing in this town with Huddersfield. Things are just beginning to turn a little bit in Leeds' direction.
Leeds managed to get the penalty on that occasion, but they had a five-man back line on the left-hand side.
Stuart Fielden being seen to on the Bradford bench, and a chance for Leeds now to register on the scoreboard for the first time through Yestin Harris. It's the first time that Yestin Harris has gone beyond the fifth round of the Silk Cup Challenge Cup. The penalty awarded when Brian McDermott failed to allow Anthony Farrell to regain his feet. So here is Leeds' prolific point scorer, capped 7 times by Great Britain. Born in Oldham, but with very Welsh antecedents. Yestin Harris for Leeds. They're off the mark. And a sense of relief, both on the Bradford bench, where Barry McDermott is taking a breather, and amidst their legions of supporters.
This will just calm them down a little bit. The Leeds Rhinos players, and possibly the fans as well, and coach Graham Murray, because they have been shocked in this opening exchanges.
As we mentioned, the third time in 4 seasons that these sides have met here in a semi-final. In 1996, Bradford won by 28 points to 6. The following year they won 24-10. Lee Jackson on at hooker in place of Terry Newton for the modern-day Leeds Rhinos.
And again, that substitution, particularly Lee Jackson, I think will be a tactical one. There'll be no injuries, whereas to Terry Newton, who started the game in that position. I think they just bring Lee Jackson on to make a few more yardage up the middle, try and exploit and make some runs from dummy half.
I think the feeling in the Leeds camp is that Newton's defensive qualities are perhaps the stronger, but Jackson, as you mentioned, is a more offensive player, if you like.
You can tell him that if you want.
Offensive in the nicest sense, Joe.
Darryl Shelford on the Bradford bench. Darryl, given the intensity of this game, it's good to have just a few points cushion, I guess.
Oh, definitely. It's always good to have points. It's just keeping our structure at the moment, and it's going pretty well.
Thanks, Darryl.
Darryl Shelford member of the Bradford coaching staff with Richard Duckenfield. Darrell scored the try for Bradford in their record semi-final defeat, 71-10 against Wigan 7 years ago today. A day when Martin Offiah scored 5 tries for Wigan.
Another penalty to the Bradford Bulls. Watch Richie Blackmore coming in here, second man in the tackle for the Leeds Rhinos. On Michael Withers, just the right elbow to the face, spotted by the touch judge Steve Taylor.
Anderson, fresh legs. Lowe's at dummy half. Was the ball played properly? Well, apparently it was. And this is Brian McDermott. Lowe's ready to distribute. Does so now to Robbie Paul. That step that's so difficult to read was read by Lee Jackson. And here's Anderson once again, trying to make yardage down the middle. Bradford with a cushion, but not that sizable a cushion. But this is McNamara trying to increase the margin of advantage, and it's the last tackle. Lowe's to Henry Paul, to David Boyle, to Scott Naylor, who only just clung onto the ball. Oh, and then he offloaded, and it was the last tackle. It's going to be the handover.
The Bradford Bulls play to such a structured game plan. Matthew Elliott, their coach, has really got them well drilled, but every now and again they'll just do something off the cuff. You'll have Henry and Robbie Paul running, well, start getting the ball, receiving the ball flat-footed, but suddenly a spark of genius and they're off, and it's so hard to defend against.
Iestyn Harris for Leeds, Lee Jackson, and now Darrell Powell. Powell in his 34th year, 33 caps for Great Britain, but yet to play in a Challenge Cup final. In fact, for Darrell Powell, this is his first ever semi-final, and it's the 15th season in which he's competed in the Silk Cut Challenge Cup. No way through for Leeds on this occasion. Cleary. Jackson to Harris, launching the high kick. Withers is underneath it. Well, it was athletically taken.
It was well taken too. He managed to take control of it before he hit the ground, and instead of it being a dropout under the post and the ball being returned to the Leeds Rhinos, it'll now be a tap on the 20-metre line.
Michael Withers, who suffered a shoulder injury in the Super League game at Hull last weekend, and was one of the injury doubts for Bradford during the course of the week. That was a little high from Darrell Powell on Danny Peacock, but no damage done. Now Forshaw. Henry Paul. Stuart Fielden certainly requiring treatment on the bench. Stuart Spruce taking the tackle on halfway. I think we can assume it's an ankle problem. Here's Robbie Paul, and he's a problem for Leeds at the moment.
A forward pass at the end of that move. Scrambling it, defence again by the Leeds Rhinos to try and contain the Bulls. They really are causing problems and finding holes in the Leeds defence. Robbie Paul again, that must be his 4th clean break. So elusive, little steps, fleet of foot.
Stuart Fielden back on the Bulls bench. He's hurt his left ankle. They're not quite sure what the matter is, but the ankle is swelling up, so I suppose there's a possibility of a fracture there.
Stuart Fielden, who is still to celebrate his 20th birthday, widely regarded as one of the outstanding young forwards in the British game today, but in some difficulty this afternoon. Harris thought about hurling the pass out wide. Bradford eager to put him to ground, which eventually they do.
And the outside backs from Bradford did very well then, closing Iestyn Harris' options down, particularly Scott Naylor in the centre position, just moving up.
Sheridan, man of the match in 2 of the previous rounds for Leeds. His kick fielded by Stuart Spruce, the Bradford Bulls fullback, former Great Britain fullback as well. It's a fair old hit from Darrell Powell, and now Danny Peacock, another of the Australian contingent. Steve McNamara accepting the tackle of Anthony Farrell. Those were the two players who were sin-binned a little earlier by Kona. Huge Tongan wingman.
Mike Forshaw, the powerhouse really in the pack. A relentless motor, attacking runs 4 and tackles made 9. That's a good start from Mike Forshaw. He's been involved. Both him and David Boyle have worked well for the Bradford Bulls.
McNamara's kick finds touch.
Again, experience from McNamara, just using the option of the kick, rolling the ball into the corner. It'll be a Leeds Rhinos feed at the scrum, but it's again pressure on Leeds, and Adrian Morley, in comparison to Mike Forshaw, again a great involvement early on, particularly in defence, and that's where he's had to be used. I'm sure Graham Murray, the Leeds coach, would have been far happier if those runs had been higher, but he's had to do an awful lot of tackling just to keep the Bradford Bulls at bay.
Richie Blackmore for Leeds. Back to Lee Jackson, and now Darryl Powell. Powell had got Godden to his left, who really wanted the pass, and then looked skywards when the ball wasn't delivered. Powell having a minor disagreement with David Boyle. Yestin Harris. And Godden finally does get the ball, but can't carry it too far forward. 7 minutes to half-time in a fiercely contested semi-final. Ryan Sheridan. Lee Jackson. Leeds, as you can see, have had so much more to do in defensive terms. Harris, he's the inspiration for Leeds, or in theory he's the inspiration for Leeds. This is Leroy Rivette, trying to go on the outside, but there's no way through. And dragged by Withers over the sidelines and into touch.
Very close to this tackle being complete, but Withers just manages the last effort to drag the Leeds player Leroy Rivette over the sideline.
Bradford go on the short side with Danny Peacock. There's a hand in the face of Sheridan, and Sheridan's come away with the ball. How on earth did he get that? But it's a try for Leeds. No, Russell Smith is going to go to the video referee. Russell Smith is not convinced at the legality of the try.
It's all up to see how many players were in the tackle.
What he said is he wants to see how many players were in the tackle. If it's 1-on-1, you can steal the ball. If it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1, you can't.
There's also, it needs to look really to see if it was Danny Peacock that lost the ball. I mean, if it being stolen is one thing, but if he never really had control of the ball, and when the ball is taken out there, it's just 1-on-1. I think that's a try. I think it was great work by Sheridan, smaller in stature, but managed to wrestle the ball from him when there was still just the two of them involved.
I tell you what, I mean, I don't want to suggest he's involved in nefarious activities, Joe, but he'd be a great pickpocket.
He comes away with this, just uses his lack of height as an advantage there. He gets underneath, manages to take the ball out with two arms, and then sets off. I don't think Danny Peacock realised what had happened.
It is a try for Leeds. Video referee David Asquith needed a long hard look. Danny Peacock, who lost the ball to Ryan Sheridan, is in a bad way. But what a piece of opportunism from the Leeds scrum half to put his team right back in this semi-final. Sheridan, man of the match against Wigan and against St Helens in previous rounds, and has now scored tries in 4 out of Leeds' 6 games this season.
So influential, the 23-year-old. There are 2 men in the tackle there. Peacock doesn't know where the ball's gone, neither do Sheridan's teammates.
Yestin Harris with the attempt to tack on the extra 2 points and to take the Leeds Rhinos within 2 points of the Bradford Bulls. Half the stadium silent, the other half with a few jeers and catcalls trying to put him off. If they were trying to put him off, they needn't have bothered.
Cool head and accurate boot. Brings Leeds Rhinos right back into it. Bradford still in the lead, 10 points to 8, but what a cracking game. This is the mistake or the opportunity, whichever way you look at it. Danny Peacock picking Sheridan out almost, thinking, well, he's a smaller player, I'll attack him with the ball, I'll make good yardage. Sheridan steals the ball, clear run to the line for the try.
Ryan Sheridan, one of those who departed the Sheffield camp a little too early to take part in last year's historic Silk Cut Challenge Cup victory over Wigan at Wembley, was aiming to go to the stadium with his relatively new employers, the Leeds Rhinos, instead. Let's hear from Richard Duckenfield.
And the Bulls have had a change of heart. They were going to put Nick Zisti on for Danny Peacock. They feared that he might have broken a rib or dislodged a cartilage. Not sure about it yet, but they're going to leave Peacock on until half-time.
Well, Peacock is moving very gingerly at the moment. Seemed to be an arm quite high in that tackle. Danny Peacock not moving with his usual freedom, having lost the ball and effectively lost 6 points. Lee Jackson, Iestyn Harris, and the kick taken on the bounce by Vicona. Textbook tackle by Francis Cummins. Henry Paul, Stuart Spruce, Leeds players swarming around him. And bearing in mind the early moments of this game, and Danny Peacock and Withers pulled up for crossing.
Danny Peacock, I think, wanted to prove his fitness here. Came steaming on, expecting the pass. Michael Withers looked, thought better of it. And because Peacock was going at such speed, was classed as obstruction by the referee.
So Leeds, having trailed for so long, now finishing the half on a real high with Anthony Farrell. It's 10-0 at one stage, it's now 10-8, and already Darryl Powell, as the penalty is awarded, has pulled out Iestyn Harris and said to him, you have a pot shot, and then we could possibly go in level at half-time.
Well, this is the game of rugby league. Bradford have dominated this half. Iestyn Harris in the dying minutes of the half gets a chance to level the scores.
There won't be too much more to unfold once Iestyn Harris has attempted this kick before we hear the half-time hooter. Of course, we started this tie absolutely level, and we could well go to half-time level as well. We will. It's 10 apiece.
Great kick by Iestyn Harris. Jonathan Davis in the studio said before the game he'd rather be on the other side of the touchline watching the game. I'm not too sure about that. This is a great atmosphere to play in. Great kicking from Iestyn Harris as well. It's got all the ingredients of a classic.
2 tries to 1 in Bradford's favour, but the boot of Iestyn Harris has pulled the Rhinos level. Food for thought for the Bulls coach Matthew Elliott, who never really displays very much by way of facial expression. Iestyn Harris with a third successful kick, which will make Graham Murray's half-time team talk a little easier. Rivett for Leeds. Noticeable that Peacock missed the tackle there, had to be helped out by one of his teammates, Blackmore. Bradford will presumably take a view on Danny Peacock's fitness during the interval. Mark Glanville, tackled by Robbie Paul and by David Boyle. There's so much noise and so much vibrancy around this McAlpine Stadium as we approach the midway point of another enthralling Challenge Cup semi-final. Jamie Matthew, now Lee Jackson, on to Harrison, letting the wind do its worst, and in this case its worst is to take it into touch.
I thought actually the Leeds Rhinos may have looked at the clock then and worked centre field for the drop goal. We saw yesterday how crucial this 1 point can be.
Here's Brian McDermott. This might be the last set of 6. James Lowe's to David Boyle. Have had 1 or 2 stoppages for injury and, of course, for the video referee as well. Hence the time that is still to elapse before the hooter. Here's some challenge on Steve McNamara.
Great defence from Anthony Farrell. Again involved.
Lowe's with the kick, it came off a Leeds player. Spruce with the opportunist move towards the line. And back went the Leeds player. I think it was Francis Cummings.
Francis Cummings did exceptionally well. Not only did he gather the ball, he managed to stay in the field of play. Put his body between the ball and the Bradford Bulls players.
Well, Stuart Spruce dribbled through, rather like his teammate James Lowe's for the second Bradford try a little earlier in this half. Rivette. And Rivette broke clear of the first tackle, but not the second. Leeds wanting to move the ball quickly with Lee Jackson. Ryan Sheridan. Leeds almost unrecognisable from the side that was so timid in the opening quarter of the game. And at half-time, there is nothing to choose between these 2 great heavyweights of the game. It's 10 points apiece between Leeds and Bradford as they seek a place in the last Wembley Challenge Cup final of the current era.
Paul Fletcher, Leeds assistant coach. Paul, the initiative has gone to you towards the end there.
Yes, for the first 20 minutes of the half.